Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United news. Got to say, I never thought I would be saying the words Manchester United going to sign Wout Weghorst, Harry Potter's mate. Who's Wout Weghorst? I've seen that the regurgitation of my clip last night, trying to enjoy a night out and just getting absolutely bombarded with this deal. Look, a lot of people were saying to me last night, you've got to go live, and I'm like, I ain't going live. I'm not going live for Weghorst. I'll do it on the morning show tomorrow. It would have been a bad idea for me to go live about this last night when I'd had a few to drink, to be honest, because I think I would have just said things that I regret the next day, which is a normal night out. But look, I've got to say straight away, if Ten Hag wants Weghorst because he's Dutch and he knows about him and he knows about his game, which he will, I get it. I do get it. You're not going to, can I just shock you? You're not going to get me going, oh my God, this is just a disgrace. And we can still get Felix, Peter. There's lots to discuss this morning. There's updates about Joao Felix. There's updates about Wout Weghorst. But this is genuine. I'm not going to lie and say that there's nothing genuine here. We're also going to be talking about a salary cap at Manchester United, which I think some people think is a good idea. I personally think it's a load of shit. We'll talk about that in a minute. But look, let's fly straight into this. And this is one of many. This is from the Manchester Evening News. Man United are advancing with a potential loan move for Burnley striker Wout Weghorst, who's at Besiktas at the moment and was waving goodbye last night. That's from Manchester Evening News. We've had, I think Romano spoke about it. I think Ornstein spoke about it. Everybody's spoken about it. Athletic, Wout Weghorst is seen as a genuine short-term option at Old Trafford, but it would require Besiktas to agree to a Burnley recall. This would be a dream move for him. Of course, he's going to want to do it. Look, before I give you my opinion on this, I want to give you a positive on this. Wout Weghorst is a player I knew nothing about until he scored a goal for Burnley, and he wasn't even a Burnley player in real life. Like, it was weird. It was probably four years ago. I'm playing FIFA career mode. If you've seen the clip on social media, that's about 4 years old. He wasn't even a Burnley player. So I'm playing FIFA career mode as Manchester United 4 years ago. Burnley have bought Weghorst in their career mode. Burnley were always my, Achilles heel. And he scored 2 goals and they beat me. So there's this clip of me going, Wout Weghorst. I've never fucking heard of Wout Weghorst. He's bloody Harry Potter's cousin. So that's where that clip comes from. I do know about Weghorst now, and I've known about Weghorst for a few years now. And what I would say is there's quite an interesting... Look, I'm not pro this deal. I will say this right now. I am not pro this deal for Wout Weghorst. I'm not. And I'll explain why in a minute. But I can see why Ten Hag is doing it, and it's definitely not a Garlo time. Wout Weghorst is 6'6", and averages, apart from at Burnley, which was in the Premier League, so it's a bit of a problem, and probably gets you a goal every other game and a half. So he averages a goal every couple of games, let's say. Okay, so the interesting thing about Weghorst, and some people might not realise this, and I remember this from last season because I remember the article at the time. He played against Wolves. And it would have been the back end of the season. So he played against Wolves for Burnley, and he registered more pressures than anybody had in 90 minutes in the Premier League at that season to that point. And there was also a time when he was consistently averaging more pressures than anybody in the Premier League. I think second was Calvin Phillips at Leeds. So you might not realise that about Weghorst. I think people see him as a target man, battering ram. But actually, is a little bit more to his game than that. He does press a lot from the front. He's a pressing monster, really. So I refuse to just jump on the bandwagon of why are we buying this target man, long ball, twat, whatever like that. Because ultimately, that is a well-known thing about his game if you know about him. But I don't think a lot of people are talking about it. He is a pressing monster, so he does fit with what Ten Hag would want as a number 9. He wants somebody who will press a lot, and to be fair to Weghorst, he's not particularly dominant in the air for 6'6". He does like to drop in. He does use his feet a lot. In and around the box, he's pretty useful. And most of his career, he's been scoring goals in teams that are not fashionable, whether it be Wolfsburg or Besiktas. Not scored many at Burnley, admittedly, but he's an interesting profile striker. He's not a Dutch Erling Haaland, Thomas, and he is Harry Potter's mate, I suppose. But look, he's not useless. He's not useless. And I think it would be unfair to just ridicule him like some people are, because there are aspects to his game that are really interesting. And like I say, the pressing thing is impressive. Now, why am I against this deal? Well, I'm against this deal pretty much for what I'm about to put up on the screen here. Here. This is from Tom Hopkins, who I think is the Times or the Telegraph. Man United are currently one of the 4 frontrunners to sign Joao Felix. They are understood to have first option and will be given 48 hours to match any offer presented by any other club. I know for a fact that Erik ten Hag wanted Cody Gakpo as his number 1 target this January transfer window. I also know for a fact that if you look at the Premier League table, Manchester United are in joint third. I also know that we're in the Europa League, the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. I also know that this Manchester United season, for the first time in a long time, is very optimistic and realistic that we can win a trophy. I also know that every rival we have, whether it's Barcelona in the Europa League or whether it's Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs, anybody else, are aggressively trying to improve their team in this January transfer window. And Erik ten Hag wanted Cody Gakpo, he went to Liverpool. Erik ten Hag wants Joao Felix and might not get him because Manchester United don't have the money. This is why I'm against the Weghorst deal, because there's no doubt that Weghorst... You know what? Let's do an analogy, right? I don't know whether any of you are old enough to know this, but there used to be a time... There's no point doing a poll. It's not. What's a poll going to do? Eric's not watching. Let's be honest. Erik ten Hag wants Felix, but the board are saying no, and he wants someone, and he's going for a cheap option. Exactly, Sean. And that's the problem with this. He's being forced into the cheap option. But if you can humour me a minute for an analogy, I'll tell you exactly what's happening here and why it's not Ten Hag's fault, right? So, back in the 90s, there used to be a thing called Blockbuster, and there was a few others. And basically, before the days of Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney and everything else, you would go down your local Blockbuster, which would have all the DVDs or films or whatever, and you would rent a video for the weekend. So if Top Gun Maverick's out, you'd go and get it from there. You wouldn't be getting it off a streaming service. Basically, what's happening here is that it's bad parenting. It's bad parenting. Erik ten Hag is the child, and the Glazers, John Murtaugh, Richard Arnold are the parents. This is bad parenting, because what's happening is Erik ten Hag's gone down the local Blockbuster on a Saturday night and he wants to rent out the biggest new release. You know, he wants to get, Pulp Fiction's just come out. He wants Pulp Fiction and he wants a big bag of Maltesers, right? That's what he wants for Saturday night. He's been a good lad all week. He wants that, right? And he's in Blockbuster and there's his mate Arteta, and Arteta's getting Pulp Fiction and he's having a big bag of Revels. And, oh God, look, there's Klopp. He's always been he's naughty, and he's getting heat. That's just come out as well. Blockbuster, he's getting heat, and look at that. He's getting a big bag of Maltesers and Revels. And then Ten Hag's parents, the Glazers, are saying, you're not having a Blockbuster. We can't you're not having put the bag of Maltesers back. You're not having a £5 Blockbuster and a £3 bag of Maltesers. You can go to the bargain section. You can go and get a £1 film, and you can have a packet of Skips. They're 20p. That's not Ten Hag's fault. He's got a choice to make. He can see all his bloody mates, they're getting the Blockbuster and a big bag of Revels. He has a choice. He throws a tantrum and says, I won't want anything. And then the Glazers will go, great, we've spent nothing. Or he takes the bargain film and a packet of Skips for 20p. And that's what he's doing here. He wanted Gakpo. He wanted Joao Felix. He's being told no, and he's looking at everyone else getting something really good. He's got to take what he can get. So he's looking around the bargain basement. Now, he might pull out Jaws. Jaws has been out for years. It might be available to rent for £1. He might pull an absolute classic out, and that Skips might satisfy him. And he might be all right. He might have a good Saturday night. Good end to the season. He might be all right. On the other hand, he's shopping in Poundland. He might pull out Free Willy. And I'm not, Free Willy might be quite good if it's a certain type of film, but I'm talking about the big black and white shark thing that jumps up, So I think that it's bad parenting. And that's a good analogy because that's the situation we find ourselves in Weghorst or Memphis or, Abubakar, who we were talking about yesterday. It's bad parenting because he's not being given what he deserves. he's having to take what he can get. He's got to take something. He's got to take something. But all his rivals, they're getting top shelf, high price, high quality. They're getting a good time. He is bargain basement, and he's got to do something. So anybody who's being critical of the Wout Weghorst deal this morning, I get it. But what do you want Ten Hag to do? He wanted Gakpo, the club said no. He wants Joao Felix, it looks like the club are saying no. And now we're going for Weghorst, and people are going, oh, it's disgraceful. Of course, there is absolutely no way, there is no way that when Ronaldo left 2 months ago, Ten Hag said, go on holiday, everyone, I want Weghorst and he'll come. No way. That didn't happen. We've ended up in the situation we always end up in. It happened with Ighalo, it happened with Cavani, and it will keep happening with this ownership. We are in a position where we've got to, we've got to welcome Wout Weghorst. We've got to welcome Wout Weghorst and hope he does well. But it's plan D at best. And that's, we should be used to this. It's not Ten Hag's fault. It's not your fault. It's not Weghorst's fault. It's the club's fault. It's disgusting. In a sentence, it's disgusting that a manager who's done so well is not being supported in a crucial transfer window. And we just have to move on and hope that we get new owners in, because ultimately this will keep happening, because it's already been happening for years. You get yourself into a position of positivity and the owners pull the rug away because they don't want to spend money. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You could get Joao Felix for, about 10 million. And he can play in 3 or 4 positions. Is that not worth 10 million in January? A 10 million loan fee in January to get a player that can play in 4 positions. He can cover Bruno, he can cover Martial, he can cover Rashford, he can even play off the right. To be honest with you, if I'm being completely honest, I would get Weghorst and Felix because they offer 2 very different things. But, United aren't going to do that. Vincent says, Weghorst and Felix would be a decent transfer window given the current financial situation. We will need both players if we have any hope of getting top 4. I agree with that. Welcome to the Members Club, Sam. Jack says, Manchester United signing a Championship striker from Burnley on loan, and we wonder why we are called a banter club. Well, he's not really a Championship striker. He's played in the Bundesliga, he's playing in Turkey, he played in the World Cup. He wasn't really a Championship striker. He got relegated and didn't play in the Championship. So he's not a Championship striker, but look, he's not what Ten Hag wanted. He's what Ten Hag can get. Any truth to the 70 million guaranteed fee after the loan to Stuart Coker? Yeah, I do want to talk about Joao Felix in a minute, mate. But I also want to just talk about this Weghorst deal because obviously, it's live as we speak right now, and I'm conflicted on it. I don't want it, but it's not the player's fault. I agree he would offer something. I tweeted it last night as a tongue-in-cheek tweet. Of course, he's Dutch. James Ducker from The Telegraph has just tweeted. He says, Manchester United after low-cost loan option that involves no commitments beyond end of season, hence surprise loan inquiry for Weghorst. Depay is another option. Felix considered too much as things stand. Choupo-Moting, not a loan option, is out of contract at Bayern in June. This is something as well that's worth I'll put it up on screen for you. I think it came in from the ESPN. Let me have a quick look. Here it is. Here we go. So this is disgusting, but it's there. Man United have been restricted in terms of targets due to the club only wanting to make a short-term signing until the end of the season in order to free up resources and squad space for the signing of a long-term solution in the summer. That's genuinely bang. What the fuck? Who are these twats in charge of this football club? That's regurgitation of last season, people. This shit cannot last any longer. It's bloody ridiculous. And look, what is that? That is just a big fresh turd, and it stinks. This is the same words with something changed slightly. This is where we were last year. We don't want to spend anything because we've got a new manager coming in the summer, and that's the plan. A year later, we don't want to buy anybody because we want to get a new striker in the summer. Are you fucking idiots? Are you that thick that you think we're going to swallow this shit? It's ridiculous. We're bloody in every tournament. We're in the top 4. Some people think we're in a bloody title race. And these absolute buffoons, for the second year in a row, are effectively saying we're writing the season off. We're going to write the season off in January. We don't want to be competitive now. We want to put a plaster on it and wait until the summer. Well, I mean, it just completely contradicts itself, because a year ago you said we're not buying anybody because we're waiting till the summer for the new manager. So you wait till the summer for the new manager, you buy players, and then that new manager needs another player in January, and you go, we're not buying anybody because we're waiting till the summer. You said it a year ago. We were waiting for this manager. You've got this manager now. Why are you not backing him in January? What stupid theory have you got about the January transfer window now? Oh, well, you know what? I'd love to be in the board meeting. I'd bloody love it. We're not going to buy anybody until the summer because we want to get a long-term option. Let's get someone short now. Has anyone got a brain? I've been there. Has anyone got a brain in here? Hello? Hello? McFly? Hello? Has anybody got a brain? We're third in the fucking league. We're in the Europa League. We're in the FA Cup. We're in the Carabao Cup. We're doing really well. What are you waiting for the summer for? Do you have to be wearing shorts to do a transfer deal? You bloody prats. Put your scarf on. It's the same bloody market. Idiots. Idiots. We could achieve something this year, and you're bringing in a bloody Weghorst or a Memphis when you could be bringing in a Gakpo or a Felix. Are you prats? Tell the bloody truth. Don't try and spin it that it's a good idea to wait till the summer. Tell the bloody truth. You've got no money because you messed it up last summer. You went and spent £85 million on Anthony when you should have spent 50. That 35 million, we'd have Cody Gakpo now. Tell the bloody truth. Instead of sitting there trying to spin it, going, we don't want to buy anyone in January because it's better to buy in the summer. It's like it's like having a drink halfway through a marathon at the end. You're thirsty halfway through the race, you prats. That drink could help you finish the race. Oh, don't worry. I'll have a drink at the end when I've fucked it. I mean, get some bloody new owners into this football club and clear out, because people will say, well, it's the Glazers' fault. Get rid of the Glazers and everything's all right. It's not just the Glazers. Wake up. They're being advised by Richard Arnold and John Murter and everybody else. They all need to go. They're bloody useless. Silence, ignorance is not an excuse. It was not an excuse in the World Wars. It's not an excuse in the business room. It's not. They are the CEO. They are the director of football. You cannot come out when the Glazers have gone and keep your job because the Glazers told me to do it. Oh, the Glazers told me to do it. Resign then. If you don't agree with what the Glazers are doing, resign. And then you might get your job back under a new owner. But you don't resign because you're too busy cashing your cheques, licking their arse. That's what's happening here. They all need to go. Everybody above from Ten Hag should just go. Because they're sat there coming out with this Glazer bollocks. Murta came out with it in September. Oh, we don't anticipate a spend like we've done in the summer again. What, a shit spend? Just pisses me off the way this club is run. I've got no problem if we end up with Weghorst because we're desperate and we've got no money. It just, highlights why we don't need these owners. But I've got a huge problem with that because they said it a year ago. They said that a year ago. We're not buying in the January transfer market because we're waiting for a new manager in the summer. And what happened? We fucked the season up. We didn't get top four. We didn't win a trophy. And the season just fell away. And here we are a year later. We don't want to buy anybody now because we want to wait till the summer. I mean, I can't get my head around this. I cannot get my head around it. We're halfway through a season where we're doing really well. And we could achieve something. And they're going to write it off. Well, we don't want to spend now. We want to spend in the summer. That's next season. What if we start next season badly and we're mid-table? What's the point then? What if... 2 or 3 of our players that are brilliant now aren't brilliant then. Football's about the now. It's about the now. Go and get it. Other clubs are doing it. Go and bloody get it. I'm really suspicious that the Glazers will probably will really sell the club. Out of 10, what is the probability they'll sell? They need to just piss off, Stephen. I'm fed of it. As I say, CEO, director of football, owners, I want them all gone. For me, it's not just the owners. I'll be fuming if the new owners are mates with the Glazers and we keep the CEO and we keep the director of football, because that's not going to change anything. You've still got clowns in the circus. The Man United circus, and it needs to be renamed to a football club. Get rid of the clowns. Last January, we could have got Enzo Fernandez, Luis Diaz, or a few others were like that for cheap, but we waited, and now Enzo's worth 100 million. Oh, Dazzo, you're absolutely spot on. It's just bloody ridiculous. But look, on Weghorst, I must just say, as I said, go back to the analogy of the video shop. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult when you know. What would you do if you were Erik Ten Hag? I want Cody Gakpo, you're not having him. I want Joao Felix, you're not having him. What can I have? Well, Weghorst. Can I have anything else? Memphis. Okay, so he's got to take something. He can't take nothing. You know, he can't just be stubborn and not take something. He's got to take something. But look, as I said, there's quite a lot I want to go through, but the Weghorst story is genuine and could well happen. He offers something very different, but he'd very much be a... Look, the problem with Weghorst is this, in a sentence. He is a pressing monster. That'll please people. He is a threat in the penalty box. That'll please people. But is he a player that Newcastle would want? No. Would Spurs want him? Spurs might put him on the bench as a Kane option if he got injured. And that's it, isn't it? So there you go. I don't even need to talk about whether Man City or Liverpool or anyone else would want him, because they wouldn't. I think Spurs might take him for the bench. I don't see any of the top six wanting him. Newcastle don't need him. They've got Wood, they've got Wilson. They wouldn't take him. So he's a bench option at best. He's not a top six player, is he? And it is a desperation signing, and that's where we are because the club have put themselves into that position. I agree. I'd be over the moon if we got Weghorst and Felix. I don't think that is on the agenda. However, there is a couple of updates on Joao Felix. Atletico Madrid are demanding a 9.5 million loan fee and a commitment to buy at 70 million from Manchester United as negotiations of Joao Felix hot up. And also, Man United are one of the front runners to sign Joao Felix. They're understood to first option and will be given 48 hours to match any offer presented by another club. I mean, the Joao Felix thing is quite simple. Good relationship with George Mendes, his agent. He wants to play in the Premier League. I think he'd want to come to Manchester United, and if we wanted to do that deal and we had the money to do that deal, we would do it. The same as Cody Gakpo. I think we would have got Gakpo over Liverpool if we had the money. So ultimately, it's about finances, and you know, I suppose some people would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up with Gakpo and... not Gakpo, we're not going to get him anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up with Joao Felix and Wout Weghorst, because, you know, there's always a possibility of that happening. However, and you know what? I suppose some people would say, if we got Weghorst and Joao Felix, people would probably, because they always do this, I've seen them do it with Ed Woodward, oh, that's really good work by Murta and Arnold. But it's not. They're loan deals. They're not hard deals to do. If you go and buy Mudryk for 70 million in the January transfer window, you've done a transfer. Joao Felix and Weghorst, they're loan deals. It's like what Spurs did last year with Kulusevski and Bentancur. They're clever, but they're not difficult to do. So a club of Manchester United stature should be able to bring in Weghorst and Joao Felix. And I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think Weghorst's a risk, but if you bring Joao Felix in anyway, it's another option. So I'd be very happy with Weghorst and Felix. It's just Weghorst on his own is quite, uninspiring, because it's not what Ten Hag really wants. Manchester says get Mitrovic, Muani, Thuram. Yeah, mate, I don't know where you're finding the money from for Mitrovic, and I have to just say this as a repeat for all the people in the chat who get frustrated by it. Why do people come in and start talking about Mitrovic in January? Do you not follow football? Do you just walk around your garden singing songs in your head and you don't actually do any research? Why would you talk about Mitrovic in January? Fulham would want 50 million. We couldn't get Gakpo number one target for 37. Where are you pulling this out? Because you're pulling it out your arse. We ain't got no money. What are you talking about Mitrovic for? We're sat here talking about a loan for Wout Weghorst, and you're giving me Mitrovic. Oh, what? Why don't you put Kimmich in as well? Bloody hell, come on, wake up. You're not progressing the conversation. You're not progressing the conversation at all. The reason we're looking at Weghorst, he's got no bloody money. But look, Joao Felix could happen. Manchester United could do that deal, of course they could. We've had a bit of an update from Fabrizio, who's on the show tomorrow, actually. He says, if Man United want Weghorst, they've got to discuss with Burnley, who will then contact us. If we accept, loan will be terminated. Otherwise, it will continue until June. He cannot leave like this. There will have to be compensation for us. So, I mean, look, it's a good point. Like, no, but I don't want to keep talking about Weghorst because I want to talk about what Ten Hag said. I want to talk about the wage cap and stuff like that. Some really interesting comments by Ten Hag, by the way. But the interesting thing about that Fabrizio tweet is that, again, United, I know these things. And so do you. Manchester United, well, you should know this. Manchester United's transfer negotiations are amateur. They're really amateur. So we get this story breaking about Weghorst, and I was out last night, and one of the lads was talking to me about it, and I said, we might get Weghorst. It might be really advanced because a lot of journalists who are credible are talking about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Man United screw it up. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, we went... Yeah, Murta was in Turin and we were getting Rabiot and then he flew back without him. You know, they went to Barcelona and they didn't get him. They were going for an Arnautovic and they had to put an apology out. Like, this club is not professional when it comes to transfers. So we can be heavily linked with a player and you'd think, well, we'll probably get him. And then you'll find out that they've just not researched something. So I wouldn't be surprised if United think they're going to get Weghorst and then suddenly it's like Besiktas say, well, we've got him on a loan deal till June. If you're taking him back, you can give us 4 million. And then you've got to give Burnley something. So Weghorst will probably end up costing us over 5 million. Well, if Felix is going to cost you 10, what are you doing? Like, if Weghorst is free, as you know, ridiculously cheap, it's a good deal. But if you've got to pay Besiktas compensation and give Burnley a bit, that's going over 5 million straight away. So suddenly it's like, on the one hand, you're saying you can't afford a quality loan deal like Joao Felix. But then on the other hand, you're going for the desperate option, but you're paying more than you would for Thuram as an actual signing. Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Weghorst deal falls through because it sounds like we're going to have to pay Besiktas and Burnley. And when you're doing that, Weghorst doesn't become worth it then because he's not that good. Could depth at CDM or right back be more crucial? Says Sam. Well, it could be, but we're not going to do anything about it. Would you rather spend 100 million on Enzo or Bellingham? Enzo's trying to force a move out of Benfica just 6 months into his time. Well, we haven't got the money, Julian, at the moment. Welcome to the Members Club, Al Tau. So keep your eyes on what happens with Weghorst because I think it is a hot story. And James Duck has just put out a quote, includes quotes from John Murta, latest MUFC fans forum, says club won't be busy in January but want a centre forward. Says there are already well underway with our plan for next summer. Clearly any sale of club could heavily influence those plans though. Yeah, Murta's just a bloody Glazer puppet. You know, he's proved himself for that a very long time. You know, well, you know what? I've had my little rant about it. We're not serious. That's the bottom line. We're not serious. We're not a football club. We're not serious. This is a very competitive race for top four. It's a very competitive race for trophies. It's a very, very, very weird football season where the January transfer window is almost like a summer window anyway because you've got to treat it like that because it's so relentless. And for United to... I mean, it just shows you how badly the club is run that they made a decision that they don't want to spend in January, in September. I mean, what football club does that? You know, we're not spending in January. You know, we're not spending money in January. Well, I mean, what if we're in the position we're in? What if we're in the position we're in where Ronaldo's not here anymore and we didn't replace Cavani? And, you know, we're actually having a really good season. Well, we said we're not spending in January. Well, you're just absolute idiots. I'm sorry, you are idiots. You don't deserve a job at a football club like that. You can't just make a business decision. We're not spending in January no matter what. I mean, it's like the guy who's left the bath running and it's all come through into the kitchen. I'm not fixing it. I'm not fixing it till the summer. There's a big hole. We can't have a bath. Yeah, but I'm not fixing it until January. You maybe say January now. We're not fixing it till the summer. So what are we going to do then? We'll just leave it. it's idiotic. It's idiotic when you put it into words. It's idiotic, and that is why people like the Glazers, Richard Arnold, and John Murtagh will never, ever, ever put themselves in a situation where you can answer back, because it will always be a statement with no recourse. So they can put a statement out. We've had a really, really good summer transfer window, and we don't anticipate spending like that again until next summer. We're not going to be investing in January. And that's the statement. And we never get a chance to come back at them because they would be ridiculed by their stupidity. In a football world, you cannot just say we're not going to spend in January. It's stupid. I'd rather have Weghorst than Abubakar. God day to all, says Christian. And I'd rather the manager got what he wanted. Dan Watson says 9 million loan fee with an obligation of 70 million for Felix is not very much. Southampton paid an 8 million loan fee for a 30-year-old striker. Felix is a 100 million plus player, says Dan Watson. Look, negotiations on Joao Felix are completely understandable. I'm not saying that we should give them 9 million with an obligation to buy for 70 in the summer. I don't think we should do that. But I would happily give them 9 million and say, look, we're happy to pay 70 million if this happens. If he flops, we're not going to pay that. And you'd easily be able to sort that out. And that is a good deal. I think 79 million for Joao Felix in the summer, if he does well between now and the summer and you've got new owners, it really is a good deal. But I sense United are just absolutely trying to not spend money, and it's appalling. It's appalling because unfortunately we all know that football is about money, whether you like it or not. That's what it is. And look, this is interesting as well. I don't know whether you saw this. Salaries at Man United will be capped at 200,000 a week, with David De Gea the first to be impacted. Manchester United have introduced a Ronaldo rule to ensure nobody inside Old Trafford dressing room is paid significantly more than their teammates. Now, a lot of people were rejoicing about this, that Manchester United would bring in a salary cap where they don't pay any more than £200,000 a week. You know what? I wouldn't wipe my arse with that article. I think it's absolutely irrelevant. And some people agree with it, and some people are against it. Some people think it's good because our wage bill is ridiculous, which it is. And then some people think it's bad because if you want to buy an Mbappe and you've got a salary cap, he won't come. He'll go to Newcastle or he'll go somewhere that will give him 300 grand a week or 400 grand a week. So I can see the pros and I can see the cons. But I refuse to get emotionally involved in this because it's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant. It's like Everton saying they're going to win the league this year. Good luck. Good luck with your bloody wage cap. It doesn't matter. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from Murtagh? Is it coming from Arnold? Is it coming from the Glazers? None of those people should be in a job in the summer. So it's like the Conservative Party, which is the government party of the UK at the moment. It's like them saying we're going to bring in a salary cap, but then there's a general election next month and Labour could be in charge. They won't bring in a salary cap probably. So we've got new owners coming in. So what are we talking about? A salary cap. The new owners might go, screw that. We want to be like Man City and we'll go and get what we can. So I'm not interested in a salary cap. You know what? You don't need a salary cap. What you need is a competent director of football. That's what you need, because this is just a lazy way, and you see it all the time in business. It's a lazy way of covering up your own incompetence. If you put a rule in place that nobody can earn more than £200,000 a week, every time you negotiate to bring in a new player, you'll give everybody 200 grand a week. So instead of giving Wan-Bissaka 100k, he'll get 200k. And instead of giving Sancho 300k, he'll get 200k. Everybody will end up on 200k. It won't bring the wage bill down because it's just lazy. You don't need a wage cap. You need people who can negotiate. A wage cap is to protect incompetence so that you don't ever give anyone more than 200k. But you can still give an 80k player 200k. And that, United gave Maguire 200k. He's a 100k player. So you'd still buy Harry Maguire for 200k. It's a stupid rule. What you actually need is people who know what they're doing, who, when you buy Anthony and he's on 20 grand a year at Ajax, you don't give him 200k. Why would you give a player from Ajax that nobody else was bidding a tenfold pay rise? Jadon Sancho was on about, I don't know what he was on, let's say 50 grand a week at Dortmund. He's now on 350k apparently. we don't need a wage cap. We need a Pratt cap. We need to stop employing Pratts who bring players into Man United who nobody else is bidding for, and then you give them stupid wages. Now, Harry Maguire was probably on 30 grand a week at Leicester. He's on 200 grand a week, and we spend 80 million and we give him a 7-year deal. You don't need a wage cap to stop that. You need a Pratt cap. You need a proper director of football. You need to say, Harry, do you want to play for Man United? I'd love to. Right, you'll do it for 100k a week. No, I won't. Well, all right. Enjoy it at Leicester then. You don't need a wage cap. You need... I mean, I'd happily do the job, and I'm sure most of you could do the job. It's not a hard job to do. Football's very, very simple. You just sit there and you say, I'm not giving you 200 grand a week, Harry. I'm going to give you 100. Well, I won't come then. Good luck then. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Because we're the only mug club out there that would give you 200k, and I tell you what, that shop's closed now. I don't need your stupid pay cap. I'll negotiate. So we don't need a pay cap. I think it's a stupid idea. Ronaldo's wages surely would pay for Felix, and that wage will already have been structured into finances for the season, says Kevin. Watch Murta negotiating 40 million low fee with 100 million obligation to buy in the end of Joao, says Savash. And salary cap is silly, says Luke. Just don't pay average players 200k a week. Average players should be influenced by the fact that it's United and not a silly paycheck. Luke, I'm completely with you. I've never understood this, and I've got no problem with Harry Maguire, Jadon Sancho, Anthony. At the end of the day, if you could get 10-time pay increase, if you're Anthony and you're on 20k a week at Ajax and Man United are willing to give you 200k a week, are you going to go, no, that's silly money? You're going to be like, oh my god, yes, please, yes, yeah. It's like somebody tomorrow rings you up and says, I'll give you 300 quid for your copy of FIFA 23, and you're like, I don't even like the game and I spent 50 quid on it. You're going to do it. You're not going to go, that's immoral. You're going to do it. It's not the player's fault. It's not the agent's fault. It's Manchester United's fault. And it stuns me how, if you look at someone like Sancho or Anthony or Harry Maguire, no other club was in for them anyway. You overpay for them, all of them, and then you give them massive pay rises. I mean, it's just, you know what? It's an article in itself. It's incompetent on a level I've never known. Like, how you can buy a player on maybe 20 grand a week and then you give them 200k. It's just like an episode in how not to negotiate. Like, they would easily take 100. You could have saved yourself 400 grand a month. It's crazy. And there we go. Interesting here what Saeed says about Martial, right? I'm going to tell you about this. This is what I said on the watch along, and this is what Erik ten Hag said. He makes the right movements, the ball security. He brings a lot to the team, the pressing. Let's not forget that. So we need that profile to be a threat, and Marcus Rashford takes benefit from that. I was saying this on Friday night. Some people were saying Martial was shit, and I said, if you watch what he does off the ball, he creates space for other people. Well, there's your manager saying it. He also says we're on a really thin line in terms of squad depth in this moment because his profile and the quality of Martial is so important for our match and our game. So, look, I bring that in because obviously Erik ten Hag, that's the manager talking about Anthony Martial. But look, this is the best bit. This is the best thing Ten Hag has said. Most signings in the past have been average at best. Average is not good enough at Manchester United. United's shirt weighs heavily, only real past personalities who can perform. Most signings in the past have been average, and average is not good enough. My manager, Erik ten Hag. That to me is one of the GOAT comments of the last, since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Because he just says everything that would have been perceived. I mean, we've said it on this channel, and you get called negative. I'd love to know what those people who called us negative over the last 5 years are thinking about what Ten Hag says now, because he's just saying exactly what we've said. Good's not good enough. The standards are too low. Celebrating wins against Bournemouth, it's not good enough. We need to go to the next level and the next level and the next level. Oh, you miserable twat, you're always negative. Well, you're saying that about Ten Hag. The signings we've made are shit. They're overpriced. They're average. They're not good enough. Oh, stop being so negative. They're trying their best. Well, the manager's just said it. So, all these people who try and make you feel bad for, having high standards, where are they now? oh, I like this manager, Ten Hag. Well, you've been talking out your arse. You know, there's loads of them. They're everywhere. They're all over social media. You know, these people that when you are constructively negative about the standards, oh, you're just always moaning. No. It's about standards. If you were brought up in the Sir Alex Ferguson era, you've got standards. Ten Hag's got standards, and he's basically, I mean, you can pick the detail out of that. You can name names, but he's basically saying that over the last 10 years, we've spent a lot of money on average players, and some of those average players are in his playing squad now, 100%. Just get Kane in the summer, 120 in 4 seasons for us as Manchester United. Well, Harry Kane could well be Man United's option in the summer. I've always had a hunch about that. You know I have. I don't agree with it, but I think United might do it, and you know, it could be. But look, the great thing about the United stand is I think over the last 7 years, when it comes to Manchester United as a community, we've been pretty much spot on. The managers that have been criticised, the signings that have been criticised, the board that has been criticised, we've been proved right. So people can clip what they like. I mean, people are always saying, have you heard what this person said about you? Have you heard that one said about you? I'm not interested. I don't give airtime to idiots, because the reason they talk or clip us up is because they're watching. And, you know, I don't watch what they do. I don't know the names of these people. I just get sent these clips of them with clips of me or quote tweeting me, and I'm like, I don't know who they are. And I don't care who they are. I only care about this community because we care about Manchester United, and that's the only thing that drives us. It's real opinion for real fans. That's what it was built upon, and that's what it is. We won't always be right, but it's a very clear, I don't really care about, you know, what other people are doing. So a lot of people in this space just want views. They just want, you know, interaction, and like, I'm not gonna get involved in that. If I want a debate or a conversation, well, I'll have it right now, like we do. I don't need to react to this bullshit, and ultimately they'll change their opinion like the weather anyway. The cold, harsh fact is, we spend time talking about Manchester United because we want them to be at the standards we are, and we finally got a manager that is like that. And when he's saying that Man United signings over the last few years have been mainly average, he's talking about, if I'm being absolutely honest, of course he's talking about Harry Maguire. £80 million for an average centre-back. Of course he's ridiculously overpriced. He's talking about Wan-Bissaka at £50 million for an average right-back. There's plenty of others. Some of them aren't even at the club anymore, but some of them are. Fred, I'm sorry to say, £50 million for Fred. I like Wan-Bissaka. I don't mind Harry Maguire, and I like Fred, but they're average players for what we paid, and that's what he's talking about. He didn't say they're shit players. He said they're average players, and what he means is, if you spend £50 million on Fred, you should be getting more. So it's an average signing. If you spend £50 million on Wan-Bissaka, you should be getting more. If you spend £80 million on a centre-back, you should be getting more. That's what he's talking about. We've spent badly for too long, and we've got to do better. But you know what? I saw a reply last night to this, and somebody said, so wait a minute, £80 million for Harry Maguire's average, but you've just spent £85 million on Anthony. Well, he better bloody deliver. And I thought, very harsh, very harsh. Anthony's not been here 5 minutes. But Ten Hag has to make sure that Anthony delivers. Of course he does, because that was a lot of money. But the difference is, Anthony was bought by Ten Hag. Ten Hag doesn't think Anthony's average. So some of these players he's referring to have either left or they've had their time and have been proven to be average. So you can't throw Anthony into the category of a Maguire or a Wan-Bissaka or anybody else, because they've been here for years. Anthony's not been here for 5 minutes. I'm seeing reports that Wout would be a backup for Tony, and as a positive, he has elite pressing and ball-winning numbers. Daniel, Slow Sports News, you should have tuned in on time. I've already given the reveal about Wout's pressing numbers, so I think we'll take credit for that. Thank you. Is Joao Felix a loan or a transfer? I don't, mate, you've got to get that deal done before you start talking about whether it's a loan or a transfer. I think it's very difficult for us to analyse what might happen next with Manchester United. I think there will be a lot of talk, of course, about what Man United are going to do next. It'd be wrong if we didn't say that would be the case. There'll certainly be a lot of talk over the. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another update at some point today as well. But I'll go back to what I said. It's not Wout Weghorst's fault and it's not Ten Hag's fault. He's being asked to shop in Poundland when he wants to shop in Harrods. You can see all his rivals are, getting what they want. And unfortunately, as I said, I did the analogy at the start of the show. This is bad parenting. Ten Hag's been good. He deserves to be rewarded. And his parents, who are the Glazers and Arnold and Murta, they're basically saying, no, you're not having it. And that really makes it very, very difficult for a manager to succeed when he's being hindered like that. Mov says, Ten Hag should be back to 100%. The things he's done this season for our club, even though we've had so many obstacles, is insane. This is a time we should spend and continue our race for the top four. Mate, I've already had a bit of a rant. It really frustrates me, though, because you're right. He took over the worst Man United Premier League side ever. The Ronaldo scenario was an absolute nightmare to have to deal with that in your first season as a Manchester United manager. The Sancho situation has been unprecedented, a key player doesn't train with the team for 2.5 months because of issues. You have to manage that as well. None of these things are his fault, by the way. And he's had huge barriers. Lost the first 2 games of the season. What? Not really the manager the media wanted, let's be honest. So huge issues. And also, he brought a few players in and most of them have worked, which doesn't normally happen. So we're third in the league. We're in all the trophies. We're on a really good run. He's had all those barriers to jump and hurdle, and he's done it. He gets to January. He knows this team is going to run out of steam. And then the board say, we ain't backing you. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. It's a very competitive season. And United, well, not even Manchester United, any football club approaching the January transfer, I'll tell you this for free. Every football club going into the January transfer window, whether you're Nottingham Forest fighting relegation, whether you're Everton fighting relegation, whether you're Leeds trying to get to mid-table, or whether you're, Brighton, outside chance of Europe, Chelsea trying to get back into the Europe race, Liverpool trying to get top 4, Arsenal trying to win the league, Man United trying to stay in the top 4, whoever you are in the Premier League, as you go into a January transfer window, any competent club would have a fund there in case. Even if it's 30 million, ideally 50, but 30 million, there should be, any competent club at any position in the Premier League should have a fund of 30 million that they don't necessarily want to use, but it's there if you need it, an emergency fund. And it should be there, and it should be there from September. You should know it's there. It's a contingency fund. It's there. And you have contingency plans. If we lose our best player, there's 30 million, there's these players we could loan or whatever. The fact that United don't have that is appalling. Absolutely appalling. A club of our size and the barriers that Ten Hag's had to jump and the season we've had, to be hitting January and not have a contingency fund is a disgrace. And on top of that, we didn't replace Cavani and Ronaldo left 2 months ago and we still don't have a contingency fund. How does your best player, and he was our best player, let's be honest, all right, a lot of it might be reputation, but he did win Player of the Year, he was top scorer, he was the top earner. How do you lose your best player in November and then 2 months later you want to replace them with Wout Weghorst or Memphis Depay? It's not logical. Where's his wages gone? Why have we not got enough money to bring in someone like a Joao Felix? It's terrifying how badly this football club is run, because as I said, all football clubs should have a contingency fund, and unfortunately we clearly don't have one. Daniel Kirk couldn't get here on time. Don't worry, Daniel, we did mention it at the start though. Weghorst is good at pressing. But look, I wouldn't be surprised, as I say, we'll have to wait and see how the day develops. We have got an 8 o'clock show tonight, of course. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Weghorst deal falls through, because I wouldn't be surprised if Man United have spoken to Weghorst, he wants to come to United, and then they've not factored in Besiktas and Burnley, and they will want money. And as soon as money is wanted, as we know, Man United will go no. So I still think we'll probably end up with Memphis. But Requi says, I think Weghorst will surprise you. No. I'm not having this. Either turn up on time or don't talk shit.
I haven't said Weghorst's bad. In fact, all I'm saying about Weghorst is he's a risk. He's a cheap option. I haven't said he's bad. I've actually defended him. He's not exciting. He's not the player that Ten Hag wanted, and he's got to take something. But I haven't said he's bad, and I've certainly not said it's his fault. And actually, Weghorst is probably not what you think. He does do a lot of running around. He is an honest footballer. He might be a bit limited, but he does run around a lot. He does press. He is, quite good in the penalty box. He's just not a player that Arsenal would want. He's not a player that Liverpool would want. He's not a player that Newcastle would want. He's a bench player. And we should be bringing... I've always said this. It's as simple as this. It's not the player's fault. It's not Ten Hag's fault. It's not your fault. It's the club's fault. But when you're bringing players to Manchester United, if I was working there, I would say, I only want to bring players here that our rivals would want. Because if we don't bring players in that our rivals want, how are we ever going to catch up with our rivals? That should be it. And obviously, Weghorst, Memphis, they're not players that Pep's looking at, Klopp's looking at, Arteta's looking at. So how are we ever going to close a gap when we won't go for the players that are available that they would like? So are the talks of clubs being already sold or having a buyer rubbish? If we had a buyer, they would have made sure we raised 15 million. Sarvish, I think Manchester United will be sold, but I understand people's concerns as to what's going on at United. Contingency fund used on Old Trafford's leaky roof, says Anthony. Depay is better than Wout, says Zion. Depends what Ten Hag wants, Weghorst playing for Manchester United just does not make any sense in any universe, says G-Man. And let's go Weghorst, says Massup. And Sin says, Weghorst is close to Erik Ten Hag's way of football simply because he's a fierce at pressing. Don't look at Burnley where they couldn't hold the ball. Look at Besiktas where they could, and he did with that. Mate, look, can I just say, I don't think Weghorst is a bad footballer. The issue is, he's cheap. He's not what Ten Hag wants. Go back to my analogy at the start. It's like going into the sweet shop. Everyone else is spending a couple of quid and you've got 20p to spend. You're not going to not spend it, but you're not going to get what everyone else wants. He's having to do... He's trying to get the best he can get with a very limited budget. If he could get what he wanted, he wouldn't get Weghorst. That's the bottom line. He's got to get something, and the club aren't giving him enough money. Other than Felix, who would you want to join, says Aziz? Well, I don't look at it like that. Why would I go other than Felix? Felix is there on a plate. We should get him. It's what Ten Hag wants. That's what we should get. We're Manchester United. We shouldn't have to go for plan B, C, D, E. We've already missed out on plan A, which was Gakpo. You shouldn't miss out on plan... I say Joao Felix could be plan B. I don't know. Ten Hag wanted Joao Felix in the summer. He might be plan A. It should be Joao Felix or Joao Felix. We're Manchester United. We've just missed out on Gakpo. You don't miss out on Felix as well. Because then you're going... When you start going for third, fourth, fifth choice, don't complain if you don't finish in the top four. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. We're back at 8 o'clock. Obviously, we'll be back if anything breaks. But to be honest with you, there's stuff breaking every few minutes at the moment, and it's just different shades of grey in the sense that United want Weghorst. Besiktas might not let him go unless they get compensation. Weghorst really wants to come to United. United like Weghorst for this. And it's funny because we're already starting to see outlets putting out stories about how Weghorst presses and this, that and the other. And I find it hilarious because it's spin. It's pure spin. Right? Weghorst ain't a bad player, but he ain't plan A. But what happens is United will put it out there that, Weghorst is good at this, he's good at that. I'm sure he is. But people aren't idiots. This is not the signing that Ten Hag wanted. It's cheap. It's the signing he's been forced to make. So, yes, he might be able to come in and do a job, but it's exactly the same as Cavani and it's exactly the same as Agallo. They could come in and do a job, and to a certain extent, they did, especially in the case of Cavani. But it wasn't what the manager wanted. It was what the manager was given. And that's a big difference. Doesn't mean that a Weghorst or a Memphis won't do well, but it's not really what the manager wanted. It's what he's been given. Thanks for all the hard work, everyone at United Stand. Can't believe half the Prats in the chat. Glazers out, bored out, back Ten Hag, says Co. Yeah, exactly, 100%. And we'll back Weghorst if that's what we get, because it's not his fault. And, Ten Hag is making the best of a bad situation. So let's back him, 100%. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe, by the way. Loads going to be going on in January, I'm sure. I still think we'll be doing a video announcing who the new owners are at some point as well. Make sure you smash a like. Take care, and I'll speak to you a little bit later on. 8 o'clock tonight. I might be doing Man City Chelsea as a watch along at That's Football at 4:30 as well. I'll see how the day goes. But we're back off at 8 o'clock. Unless anything happens before. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you